It's so tiny, I can't even tell what's going on the screen here. It's so far away and the laptop has a really tiny screen. So I've been sick with the flu for the past week or so. My voice is still not entirely ready yet to do long episodes. So yesterday I tried to record the next PHP project, which is the Forgotten Password system, and my voice got destroyed after half an hour. So I'm not gonna do anything that big. At least not till my voice is completely ready. So in the meantime, we're going to do something a bit fun instead. We're going to build a template for a portfolio website. This is something my HTML people from my HTML course has been asking for, because they some of them had a little bit of a hard time coming up with designs themselves. So this is going to be a template you guys can download in the description of this video for free. You don't have to be signed up on my Patreon to do this. I'm just going to go and leave a link for it in the description. So you can go and download it down there. And if you don't have the softwares that I'm using to edit the layouts and that sort of thing, I'm just gonna leave a PDF version as well inside the files in the description there. So what we're going to be doing here is I have my program, which is Experience Design, it's called. It's a Adobe program that is relatively new, so I think they're still working on it. I don't know if this is the beta yet, because it was the beta at some point and then it became a full version, or at least it will be at some point. So I don't know if this is the full version yet, but this is a very good program to create templates for websites. This is something they created specifically for prototyping and that sort of thing, for mobiles and for websites and that sort of thing. So as you can see, we can in fact go up here and we can say I want to create something new. I want to create something for either iPhone, iPad, web, or something custom. So, and the cool thing about this is that once you're done with the design, you can create a prototype that people can actually interact with. So it's a really cool software to use for creating designs and all that sort of thing for web development. So I have some inspiration on the side here, which is supposed to help me out with the template. And right now we just have a blank canvas, and I don't, again, when I say inspiration, I don't say we're going to copy a website. We're going to take some inspirational aspects of different websites, and we're going to try and see if this is something that we can create into a template. We're not going to copy what they have on their website, because that is cheating when we do some kind of web design. I mean, it's okay to borrow elements, but don't copy entire things from websites, because it's a little cheesy to do. So what we're going to do here is we're going to just go ahead and get started here. And I have my first page, and I think we're just going to go ahead and do a one-page design, meaning that this whatever portfolio we have here is just going to be one of those one-page websites that goes all the way down. You can keep scrolling, that sort of thing. So if there's going to be pages, I might not make the pages, but I will go ahead and create this front page at least here. So let's go ahead and see what we should do to start with. Usually I like to work from the menu first, meaning that if I have this website here, I like to just sort of go ahead and make the menu. Now, I have usually a rule that says either about 60 pixels if you want it small, or if you want it big, you can do about 100 pixels. So just gonna go ahead and adjust it here. I think we should do something a little bit bigger in this episode, because bigger is always better in some cases. But at least here we're just gonna go and create a big. So we're going to create a border, or remove the border, and then we're gonna go ahead and use this as a sort of box that is going to contain the menu. Now we can't really tell what's going on here. We could add a shadow to it just to sort of tell from the start here. Let's go ahead and build some kind of a menu. Now I don't exactly know what to put for the bullet points. Let's go ahead and say something like home, and then we can do contacts. Now these links are going to be moving up and down the page instead of going to separate pages, at least as I'm making this design here. So that's how that's going to be. Now we do also want to show off cases. At least that's a tip. If people want to make a portfolio website, you should show off what you can do using cases. So I think we have a menu here. We're just gonna go ahead and shove it down there and try to make it fit. So we should probably change the text. I like the font called Roboto. I use it for a lot of things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use that one, and I'm going to center it in here. And let's go ahead and change the boldness, because it's a little bit too light. A mistake I see a lot of people make is to make everything too thin, because you want to be able to tell what things are on a website. Sometimes the thickness, making stuff thin, it sort of belongs to the design for the website, but it's not really that usable. So usability is not very good. So let's go ahead and make it thick, and let's go ahead and change the color, because the fill is kind of gray, or kind of gray right now. We should make it something like that, a little bit darker. You can always make it a little bit more gray afterwards if you want to, but for now let's go ahead and make it like this. So let's go ahead and make a sort of what should you say, a wrapper, so we can actually contain some of this stuff. Now I'm a huge fan of using wrappers to sort of make stuff fit inside a certain boundary instead of having everything being completely filling out the browser. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a wrapper, and I'm going to go ahead and set it to something about 1200 because I think that's good. Then I'm just going to go ahead and center it inside the website here. So now we have something we can build from. We have a wrapper here. See if you can find a nice font for this. I'm trying to make a logo here, and I don't want it to seem similar to the menu we have over here. I might make the menu a tiny bit smaller because it's quite big, and we shouldn't have it. The rule of thumb is, at least for web development, is that 14 pixels, that is really the minimum you want to go for. A lot of people say 16 pixels, so you want to make sure people can actually read what you have inside the website. So I think we can put an image in here just to have something. And again, I'm gonna put some words in here for reference to show what exactly it is I'm building here. So this would be, for example, an image. So we're gonna put an image inside this thing. Let's go and make the lines a little bit. There we go. And again, as you can kind of tell here, I'm putting this as, I think this is 14 pixels, which is way too tiny. So when it comes to web development, a lot of times you do want to increase it a little bit. Now, my experience when we make these sort of designs is that once you do actually program it and put it up in a browser, it looks a lot bigger than it does inside this design program here. So keep an eye out for that. Now, I should probably mention that you should typically develop for the mobile first, because it makes a lot more sense once you do get into the browser version afterwards. Because once you get to the development process of actually making the website, it is tougher to make a browser version fit into a mobile version than it is to do it the other way. But I know pretty much what I'm doing here. So I decided to make the browser version first and then go into mobile. But it is typically better to go mobile first. I'm just going to mention it because it's a pretty important point to make. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck at some point once you need the mobile version. And everyone has a mobile version these days because it is 2018. So I think this is pretty good for what the user is going to see the first time they enter the website. Now, again, I borrowed a stock photo, so you probably want to switch out the photo with something else, maybe of yourself at some point. But this is a pretty good minimalistic design for people who enters your website for the first time. Something I notice a lot of people they do that I don't really like personally is that they cram too much inside a design, where keeping it minimalistic is probably the best way to go if you want to not confuse the users once they enter your portfolio website. So what we have here is pretty good, I think. We could probably make this line up here a little bit thicker. I should probably do that. Let's go ahead and cram it up to maybe 3 pixels. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and stretch this out down to the bottom, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill in the other sections as well, because we need to have more than just a photo of ourselves inside the website. Okay, so I think I have something that looks like a cases section inside the website here. Now, right now there's only 2 different cases. There could be more below it, but I think it becomes a little bit too much if the cases layout has to be like this, and then there's even more cases below there. So you have to scroll a lot to get down to the bottom where they can contact you. So what I want to do is I want to add just a couple of different more cases, but in a different way, so that they can see the best 2 cases up here, and then additional cases they might be interested in down here in the below section here. So right now I'm trying to create a sort of contact form down at the bottom here, because I think a contact form is pretty important to have on a website so people can get in touch with you. Okay, so I do think I have something I can show you guys here. I originally planned to only have it black and white so you guys could fill in the colors by yourself, but I thought that it would be better to illustrate what I wanted colored inside the design here. This is basically not turning out as a template. This is essentially becoming a actual website design, which is not what I planned for this episode here. The only thing that is still a template is the fact that, well, we have placeholder images in here, and we also have different boxes down here that should have a background image instead that has a sort of color overlay over it or something. So these should be different cases, just in the same way as we have different cases up here, and then of course with the case names on top of them here. So I also originally planned to have a contact form inside the website. When you want to create a contact form inside a website, a lot of people want to have a contact form inside the website that people can fill in and then send using a button. Now, even though that is a really cool thing to have inside a website, most companies, if you want to get hired by a company, actually prefer to either call you or they prefer to send you an email by actually having an email illustrated inside the website. So even though I do have a send email button down here, I think that in a lot of cases, it would be better to just have your email available inside the website, maybe down in the footer or something, so you don't just have a contact form inside the website. So have both if you need to have a contact form. Don't just have a contact form. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this into a mobile format, which is something you should have in 2018. It's almost 2019 now because we're heading for December. So we should start looking at what is actually trendy and what you should have. It is pretty much a must today that you need to have a mobile version of your website. If you don't have a responsive website, then you're really far behind when it comes to creating a website. So let me go ahead and create a mobile version for what I have here. And here we have the mobile version. So I did a couple of changes from the browser to the mobile version, and I'm just going to go and go through exactly what I did from one to the other, because if you look at the templates, you think, well, I'm going to make this website myself, then you might be wondering why I did some of the choices that I did. I had to make a choice here because when it comes to the image that was inside the browser version here and had to go to the mobile version, I don't want to illustrate too much unimportant things at the top of the website, because when they enter the website for the first time on their cell phone, you need to make sure that there's important things to show the user when they enter the website. In this case here, I did decide to keep the image atop the website and not throw it away, because I thought it became too unpersonal inside the website if I didn't have it. I just think it's important to have personality inside your website when you create a portfolio. Otherwise it becomes very cold and impersonal, and it just becomes, it looks like a WordPress theme, which usually tend to be very cold. So adding a little bit of personality to your website is a really good thing to have. And when it comes to the cases down here, I decided to, instead of having the text below the image, because I don't want to stretch the mobile version too much, otherwise they're gonna rub the skin off their fingers trying to get to the bottom of your website. So I instead decided to have the text appear on top of the image inside the mobile version. So in that way they can actually see the cases in a really good way without having to scroll. You'll also notice that I kept the other cases down here at the bottom. Again, if you want to, you could also just throw away this section from inside the browser version and just move everything up. Actually, that might even be better, because I think they're kind of misplaced inside the website. But again, you can choose if you want to keep them or just throw them away from inside the website. Okay, so we're back again, and we're going to continue building on this design here. I had to take a step away from the computer because my voice started cracking up quite a bit, and I had to take a break for a few days. So this is a new day, this is a new shirt and everything. So I even switched around my monitor, so you might have noticed that the camera angle might have changed slightly, because I used to have my monitor over here, and now I have a monitor over here, and everything has changed. So some things changed here. Now, I do recommend, no matter what, that if you create a design and you tell yourself after you are done designing that this is so good, this is a perfect design, then I recommend you still take a step away from your computer, maybe for a day or so, then get back to your computer and take a look at the same design. Because once you take a step back, you might notice a few things that you didn't notice when you were sitting in it for, you sit and you design for a long period of time, like a few hours, and then you just sort of become blind to some of the things that you otherwise couldn't tell if you had a fresh pair of eyes looking on it. So I'm so out of breath right now because I had to do the whole intro where I sat down on my chair to sort of show you guys this is a new day. So I am gonna try to catch my breath and maybe play some music or something. Hey Google, play some AC/DC Back in Black. And then we can just sort of wait for it to start up. Yeah, just realized that was copyrighted. I can't play that while we're sitting here. So, okay, back to the design. And my dogs go all crazy because I just turned off the music and started dancing. Okay, so we have this design here, and right now I need to do some fixing because there was a few things I was very unhappy with last time. First of all, there's something off about the top here. It seems very empty, and we need to do something about that, even though I know it's supposed to be a clean look. Once you fire this up in a big browser, this is sort of... It needs to have something done to it, whether it being a gradient or something. So we need to do something here. This section here is a little bit too big. With the different cases, I decided that these down here were obsolete and not very pretty to look at. So we're going to get rid of these in the second version of the design. I'm just going to make a second version next to it here. And some is off about the colors down here. It's like, I don't know, the colors don't match up, so we have to do some tweaking there. Probably add the email to the bottom as well, which I talked about doing earlier. So let's go ahead and try to change this a little bit. So if I were to go up here, or actually down here is much easier, and just go ahead and say I want to make a new web version. There we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy paste the entire thing we have over here. So we have it over here, and then I'm just gonna tweak it a little bit. There we go. And then I'm gonna make some changes, and as you can see, it keeps coming up with pop-ups here because I think it's still in beta, but I'm not sure yet, the software here. So it will still give you recommendations. I think the top here needs to be a little bit more, I don't know, bold. I think bold would be a lot better up here. Maybe the line has to be a little bit thicker than 3 pixels. It seems like the font here needs to be changed. It is a little bit too small, so let's go ahead and try and buff it up a little bit. I would also need to change the line spacing. Again, this would be responsive, so if you were to be on a much smaller screen, then the fonts need to scale accordingly. But I think this is good, and we need to change the spacing now. And there's probably a rule of thumb when it comes to line height versus the font size, but I don't know it. So I just sort of do what I think looks good in this example here. So this text down here is 20 pixels right now. I am not sure if that should be bigger. It probably should be. I think 24 is much better. So let's go ahead and make it 24 pixels and just go ahead and leave it like this. We should probably also pull it out. Yes? Yes, let's pull it out. I think this is okay. I think this button might be a little bit strong in its dark colors. But you know, I think this is going to be okay. So now that we resized everything, let's go ahead and make sure it's centered. So there we go. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. If we take a look back here, that's very small. And if we take a look here, it's very big. Again, once you actually put it inside a browser and it gets a lot bigger, if I were to zoom in, then it might be too much, I don't know. But you're just gonna have to do some tweaks here. So going back down to cases, I have been thinking about this featured subtitle. If we were to remove these down here, which, by the way, these cases down here, which are not the featured cases, they don't have a subtitle or header or anything like it does up here. So people might think that these are a completely separate thing, or they might think it belongs to this section up here, but these are not featured. So let's go ahead and just remove these cases down here, because they are not doing anything good, and just go ahead and remove the featured subtitle. I still need to make sure we have the correct spacing. Let's see, how much should it be? Should not be that much. Let's go ahead and move it down 60 pixels, I believe. Or we can move it down 40. Let's see how that does. It might be 60 I need to do, so let's do 2 more. Okay, so this section here is too big. We need to scale it down, because it's just, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of doing really, what do you call it, brave steps when it comes to designing. I like to do something I know that works. So let's go ahead and just create another case and just go ahead and shrink them down, because this is much too big. We need to shrink them down to something that looks like it's aligned with everything else, because we have a wrapper we need to take care of. Okay, so including a little bit of spacing did quite a lot here. A lot of things that I see a lot of people do in the beginning when they try to design websites, again, I'm probably also making a bunch of mistakes here, but one mistake that people make is that they don't include enough spacing inside the design. So everything sort of becomes very tightly, you know, shifted together, which doesn't look very good inside a website design. So you have to really be careful about spacing. Make sure that you have space, otherwise people are going to get confused when they start looking at designs. Let's move up this section here. It has to fit with that top part, so that's okay. And like I said, there's something off about these colors here. I think we need to darken them slightly, just because that might be a lot better. Yeah. This section down here might also need to be darker than the above section. Let's go ahead and shift that up. Yeah, I would like this to be a little bit darker, so we need to not make it too dark. Also, about what we have here, we also need to have some email, some different things, because again, I don't have all the info that needs to be in a footer here. You know, I'm just doing the basics that I feel like doing here, because I don't want to spend too much time on what information needs to go on the website, because you guys need to figure that out. But I'm just going to go ahead and include the email down here. So I could say use mmtuts@gmail.com. and then align it with the bottom down here. There we go. Okay, so now we have some things in the footer, and it looks a little bit more balanced, because if you look at this one over here, it's very heavy on the left side, whereas the right side has barely anything in it. And the gray colors, because they're so gray and desaturated, look kind of weird. Like they confuse the eyes, because they melt together with the white content that's inside the actual footer. Again, for some that might be a design choice, but I think it should be a little bit darker here so we can actually tell what's going on. So now we have something that looks a little bit better than the previous design over here. At least I think so. So if we're to just zoom out and get a proper view of what we have here, and make sure you guys can still see it because of my face. As you can see, we have some small changes. You can better see the menu when you look out from afar, because it's a little bit more darkened. You can better see the content inside of here, inside the above section. And you can also see more cases that looks a little bit more balanced than just shoving a bunch of boxes like we had over on the first draft. So making another draft is always a good idea. As you can see, we also quite a bit shrinked the website from top to bottom, which is also a good idea, especially if you have a mobile version. So making it too big is something that you shouldn't do. So I think this simplistic version that I just made is better than this that has proportions that are sort of off, and then also sections that basically I don't think is needed inside the website. What would be here would be, I was talking in the beginning about this being a one-page website. It didn't turn out that way. So if you make a second page with cases, for example, if you were to go in here and click the menu on the top here that says cases, then you should probably be taken to a secondary page with all the different cases. just so you have some more content on your website, because there's not a lot of content here, but I think that the first impression is a lot better on the second one here. Again, the next thing would be to step away from the computer, maybe 10 minutes, go back to the computer, and then take this design and check for things that needs to be reworked a little bit. So I think this is good. I'm gonna go ahead and save this as a PDF and as a project file in case you have experienced design, so you can go ahead and make tweaks to it yourself if you want to. I'm gonna go ahead and leave a link in the description of this video where you can actually get access to everything for free. You don't have to be on my Patreon to do that. So just go ahead and tweak with it and work on I would actually like to see if you guys have ideas for a cases page that would actually sort of fit together with this front page. If you were to make that as a sort of project, I would gladly take a look at it and maybe make an episode where I sort of go over the different designs that people have sent to me. If I get enough of them, I will do an episode like that to have you guys contribute something to the channel where I can take a look at it and give my initial thoughts and ideas about what you made. I'm sure you guys are going to do great about making something that looks a lot better than what I can do here. If you have some tweaks to the front page as well, just go ahead and do that and send it to me, and I'll go ahead and make an episode out from it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this short episode. It is something a little bit different. It is something that I'd like to know in the comments as well if you guys enjoyed this episode and what you thought about my design, because personally I think this is a pretty good standard design. It is not a design I spend a lot of time on, but it is a design nonetheless that is very simple and a lot better than what I did when I started as a web developer many years ago. So go ahead and take a look at the design, do something with it, send it to me, and I'll take a look at it. And I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next episode.